Welcome to 2 Cents Short of a Dollar, the show where we give our 2 cents, keep it 100. We're your hosts. That's Motiz. I'm Rude W. My innie is here and in full effect today. So we're here to talk about Severance, episode 9. We're almost at the end of season 2, and what a journey it's been. But now, episode 9 to me, it just felt like an alley-oop, right? Or like a lead pass. Like it's setting you up for what I think is going to be a monstrous finale in episode 10, right? 76-minute episode that we're dying to see. But where do we even start in this episode? I want to start with Milchick, a guy that we've been having our eyes on for some time now. Seems like he's been cracking, and I think we get our confirmation that Milchick is cracked, right? One, I think Milchick has beef with Miss Wong based on some things that we learned last episode. Miss Wong is going through the fellowship program, right?
Mhm.
I know Milchick just he revealed that before, but I think we last episode we see the importance of the program, and I think the Lumen future leaders go through that program. So I think Miss Wong being there lets Milchick know, hey, you're just a placeholder, but they're really grooming me for success, and you're just a placeholder until I'm ready to take that. And I think that's part of his beef with Miss Wong. Do you get a sense that Milchick like has some kind of disdain for Miss Wong when you see the dynamic between the two of them?
Yeah, I think they kind of built it up where there's a power struggle between the two, and they kind of was like being a little chippy, going back and forth. And I feel like between Milchick's resolve of wanting to be the leader on the Severance floor, and then his relationship with the top brass, and then Miss Wong, he's like, you might be coming in interfering with that. So I think it's just a power struggle between the two, and now he cut her time short essentially, which is kind of the theme of this episode, right? Just the severance of relationships, severance of just what people hold dear to themselves. And Miss Wong, she wanted to finish out her time on the severance floor, right? But he kind of was like, hey, your time has to go, and go ahead
Yeah,
and crush the little game, get
yeah,
rid of your childhood follies.
yeah. So what I found kind of interesting is, wasn't it her a few episodes ago saying, "Hey, like, don't basically be nice to them. Like they're not like people. They're just these innies, right? Like don't be nice to them." But then you seen the empathy that she showed for Dylan, right?
Mhm.
And then I find it ironic that she's going to Gunnel Egan's empathy center. Do you know what I mean? So
Yep.
I thought that was an interesting coincidence, and it just seems like a lot of people are kind of like I said, it was a different Miss Wong, and like I said, Milchick's been cracking. And before I get to this scene, which could have potentially stole this episode, you mentioned him making her break her Care Egan toy. And what I thought was kind of weird, and I just wouldn't expect this from Milchick, because I feel like people in these cultish kind of groups, like they take things very seriously. So him making her use a James Egan bust, like the current CEO, to
Mhm.
destroy the Care Egan game, I felt like it was weird. And I was wondering if Severance was trying to throw some kind of symbolism in our face about maybe James doesn't praise Care the way we think he does. Maybe he wants to be the guy that people, like I'm like, was it a clash between James and Care that they were trying to tell us? Maybe James believes like, hey, what I've brought to Lumen exceeds what Care has brought. Maybe people should worship me and strive to be. You see what I'm saying? Like, I
That's a
wonder
good
if
point.
they was. I could be making something out of nothing, but I wonder if they were trying to tell us because,
Mm.
like I'm saying, like a cultish kind of situation. I feel like they would never make you use like if she had to break something, tell her step on it or use something, but use the face of the current CEO like that. I just thought that was a little strange to me.
Yeah, yeah, and or maybe it was just a practice of some sort, or maybe it was just Milchick feeling as though the way he felt when he received the paintings, right? He wanted to kind of somehow in a passive aggressive way, like, we're going to use this form of like, it's like rebelling against authority. We're going to use this actual item that might be respectable, and we're going to use it to damage another item that represents this, right? Some sort
Mhm.
of clash there. Probably it could be anything at this point,
Yeah, but staying with Milchick, that scene and the dialogue between him and Drummond. So Mr. Milchick has not given up the SAT words. He's still using very big words. He's probably on his lunch break. He's reading the lexicon. You know what I'm saying? Like this dude is still at it, and Drummond's not really having it anymore. He's like, yo, like, bro, I told you about this. You're not improving. Stop doing this nonsense. Stop using those stupid words. And the culmination of the argument comes with Milchick telling him devour feculence. I'm just like, feculence. The milkshake was like, I was getting ready to Google what the hell is feculence. I didn't have to. Mr. Milkshake said that means eat crap. You know the word he used, right? So
Right.
then I was just like, oh, whoa. Severance hasn't really been about too much violence, but I was kind of shocked Drummond didn't punch him in the face, bro.
Yeah, he was. You could tell Drummond was trying to, and I don't know if I can't sit here and say Drummond was doing something that was out of the ordinary, because we've seen Milchick do the same again with the
Mm-hmm.
Severance employees,
The
right?
innings,
As
yeah.
if they were children, right? So it seems like it's a common practice. I don't want to say common, but it's a practice amongst the Lumen Corporation, and it kind of was. He was trying to emasculate him. It kind of was. I would say it's pretty good to see Milchick stand up for himself, and he
Yeah.
kind of outright told him, like, yo, look, Mark out there handling his business. Audi Mark is your responsibility. My responsibility is handling the employees on the 7th floor. So
He
kind of
didn't lie.
get your ish together. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And the respect, and there's a line of respect you have to give me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a severed employee, right? So he's kind of drawing that line there, which kind of
Yeah.
goes into the talk he had with Mark too. Like it was a full
Yeah.
circle moment as well. So
Do you think Milchick's gonna pay for that outburst?
yeah, I think so. I think in some way, the only way he doesn't pay for the outburst is if something larger happens where the Lumen Corporation has to draw their attention to, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if it's nothing crazy and they're in control of the situation, they're definitely going to look to address that situation with Milchick, especially once Cold Harbor is completed.
Okay, let's rewind a bit towards I think where the episode started, and we see Helena swimming, I believe at James' house. So we kind of get a look inside of James' house, and we,
Right.
we see who has the money in Care PE, right? So we see how he's living floor to ceiling, everything, any which way, swimming pool. But we see Helena swimming, and then we see like the clocks and like like there's imagery of time and like I'm taking the imagery as like, hey, time is getting closer to, what we've been waiting for, like the greatest, whatever, discovery of man or whatever they call Cold Harbor, right?
Mhm.
But could I also look at it as she's kind of dealing with a bit of PTSD and she's seeing how long she can kind of be underwater and she's kind of like somehow like reliving the moment of Irving putting her face underwater because it seemed like like obviously when you swim you hold your breath but it seemed a little bit deeper as if like she was trying to fight her demons per se. Do you know what I mean? Or do you think she was just having a regular old swim, nothing to it?
I don't. I think it has less to do with the event that she experienced per se, and I think it just had more to do with her current situation under her father. I think
Mm-hmm.
just what she represents for the company and the relationship she has with her father might kind of just be somewhat overwhelming. Maybe she's in this bubble, feels like she's drowning under the responsibility, amongst
Mm-hmm.
many other things. And I think that kind of just represents, and you can kind of tell, right, when she comes in and she splits the egg in 6 different pieces. Obviously, the writers are just telling us that just is a callback to Gemma, right, and her 6 severant
Mm-hmm.
personalities or the
Right.
room that she went into. I'm not sure if that's a limitation or whatnot, or 6 is the maximum number they can sever chips in. I don't know, but it seems like a callback to that to some degree.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and also they're all shaped the same way. So, and I
Mm-hmm.
think one of the themes that got brought up in this episode is balance. Mark's voice. He criticized, like, I wish you would just, he didn't like the way she was eating her egg,
Like
essentially.
he wished she would
You
eat
know,
the egg raw. And I was gonna
raw.
ask you
Yeah.
because I got the same thing when I seen her split the egg in 6. Like initially it looked like it was in 2, like in half, right? So like any Audi. But then we saw the full 6 and my mind instantly went to Gemma, like your mind
Right.
did. But now, if the egg split in 6, and the way she was eating it, just eating like the egg whites was super weird. Severance has a good way of just making you feel weird about normal things, right? Like people are doing. But any which way, it was split into 6. And I instantly went to Gemma. But when he says, I wish you would just eat it raw. And I do believe that's a callback to, I think it was season 1 where they said
Yep.
some like Care's like favorite thing were like raw eggs or something like that. What do you think eating the egg raw symbolizes? If being split in 6 is kind of like a reference to Gemma. What do you think eating the egg raw symbolizes?
I don't know. I just think that's just something that he just likes to do. If I'm being completely honest, I think that's something that is his thing, you know, because I think it was brought up a couple of times, right? Like, you know, um, the only one I recall is just when they asked her, or they asked, I think they asked Mark. I don't recall who they asked, but they asked what was his favorite meal, like
Mhm.
referencing like the raw eggs. But I think it's just something he just likes to do. That's just my honest opinion. I think it's more symbolic for Helena than it is for James Egan himself.
Mhm.
Maybe it's a callback. Maybe we may get a bombshell, right? Maybe we get a flashback of Kier
Mm.
Egan. And he says, "Oh, I like it raw." Pause. That was crazy, but you know, I like to eat. You know, I like to eat eggs raw, right? Maybe it may come back in that way, but for me, for now, I just think it's just who he is. What do you think?
I mean, I couldn't really tell. I was wondering if like raw meant like, I don't know, like you're all in, or like you're just doing it like your whole self is involved. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like your whole self is involved with the greater Egan plan versus. I really couldn't tell. You know, maybe the line means nothing. Maybe I'm just caught up on thinking everything in Severance means something. But for some reason, I'm like, what does he mean by that? You know, it was definitely a weird statement. Definitely a weird statement.
And I ain't gonna
Um,
lie, like you bring up a good point, and what I've come to notice about this show in particular, they have a lot of like symbolism throughout the show, which is tied to the Lumen organization and just so they have a lot of color going on. But a lot of the times, a lot of these symbolic meanings just mean what they are in that instance, but they hide that with what really actually means something. And
yeah,
that it is difficult for the viewers to tie, all right, what does this? So they do a really good job of putting, okay, we have all these M&Ms, but a few of these M&Ms actually are the puzzle to the pieces, whereas some of them is just, you know,
yeah.
uniquely designed this way. So
I'm glad you said that, because there's one other thing I noticed about James' house that I meant to bring up to you. So
mhm.
it felt like a lot of blue going on, right?
Yep.
However, blue usually represents the innies, where red usually represents the outies.
Hmm.
So I was wondering, and like I said, I don't think Severance is doing anything unintentionally. So I wonder what they were trying to tell us with the the blues we were seeing in his house. You know what I mean?
I don't know. It's hard to say because even when you look at like, if you notice, like, and maybe I'm tripping, but maybe I got to go back. A lot of the Lumen organization, like I think Drummond, his eyes is blue, right?
Mhm.
Jamie Egan's his eyes is blue, right? So I think it's just a common theme within the Lumen organization
Okay.
when it comes to balance, maybe just being one, and maybe that's what Cold Harbor is, like a different process from reintegration where it's just this compounded like essential one piece, right? This goal that we need to reach in harmony. No pun intended with the harmony
Yeah.
cobalt, right? But
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I
Nice
think it's
pun.
just,
Nice pun.
yeah, I just think maybe it's maybe not innies themselves, but it's just what they represent in order to achieve
Okay.
using innies, you know. So I think the colors represents more so lumen than it does the innies, is what I'm trying
Oh,
to get.
I see. I see. Okay. Let's transition to maybe my least favorite person this episode. It's kind of shocking because I love this character,
Mhm.
but and I know this is going to be an unpopular opinion because the dude was pouring his heart out. But Dylan, I didn't.
Dylan,
Like,
why?
yeah, like don't kill me in the comments. But let me tell you, I was unhappy with Dylan. Like I get the whole thing, right? Like I understand Audi Dylan being mad at Gretchen. I think he's justified, right?
Right.
But any Dylan now, and I get it, right? Being an any, you kind of want to experience the rest of the world. He's not getting a chance to. So I'm not mad at him about his feelings, the proposal, or anything. But I'm mad at how he went out. Like, all right, you know what? I'm about to resign. Like, I feel like that, that being thrown in your face, that, like Gretchen is like, no, like, I'm not gonna marry you. Like, I need to go
Yeah.
back to my real life. I feel like that should have been enough for any Dylan to be like, all right, I gotta help take this down. I gotta take Lumen down. But instead, like, and yes, I think he's gonna be back in season 3, maybe even episode 10. Yes. But I do feel like he left my girl Helly hanging. Helly E, as she told Lumen, as she told Milchick, get it right. She was like, don't you mean Helly E?
Yeah. Honestly, and it's a callback, right, to Irvin when Irvin lost Burr and he was like, nah, I don't want to be here. I don't want to, you know, they all felt, but it's funny too, because Dylan was the one trying to convince him, like, yo, don't. And now it's like he's just, like, nah, I can't. And I don't know if it's me, man, but this sense of entitlement with the innies, I understand the innies are this separate entity within the body. I get it. But like when he's like, and Helly corrected him, right? Like, that's not your wife. But then she said she would have treated you that way. But I'm
Yeah.
like, come on, like this sense of entitlement with the innies, I don't know how I feel about that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of, but then again, another part of me is like, what I'm noticing is these innies and outies, they're essentially the same people. It's just the innies are essentially a fresh slate that is allowing kind of the habits of the body to kind of just take shape and form. But what we notice is they're operating kind of in the same way that outies would. In some, we
Mhm.
see it happening time and time again. And one revelation was when Mark, right, when I thought Mark was kind of exhibiting his outies personality in his any form, when the conversation he had with Helena, when he
Mhm.
found out. But then as it's kind of started progressed, it kind of showed like, oh, maybe he's just Mark, right? And he's just somehow is just that bleeding effect that I brought up a couple reviews back. Is just no, just that's just how they are. They're
Yeah.
really more alike than they are different, if I'm being
Yeah.
completely honest.
Yeah. So you talk about them being more like than they are different. And once again brings me back to why Dylan was my least favorite person this episode. So like Helly's asking for help, like, yo, come on, we gotta do this. Like, don't let this all be for nothing. And then he's just like basically just like, bro, he told her, like, yo, we couldn't even tell that, like you're trying to say like we're different, but no, we're really the same. Like we couldn't even tell it wasn't you when it wasn't you. And then she says, but Irving could. But then I think this was a low blow. He said, but Mark couldn't. I thought that was a real low blow. And I'm like, all right, Dylan, you kind of going out like a sucker right now, bro. I'm really not feeling it, bro. I'm
He said,
really not.
I'm not feeling it.
I'm really not feeling it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I just wasn't happy with Dylan. He left my girl Helly by herself, and like Helly is like the definition of like, yo, I don't take nothing. Like, yo, Milchick was like, leave the door open, slams the door, like, bro. And one thing I love about Helly is how distinct her walk is from Helena's walk. Like when Helly walks, it's kind of like got that
Yeah,
booty
it's a
walk.
bit, yeah, it's a bit like because I went back to look, like, when I edit these videos, sometimes I have to go back and look and say,
Yeah,
yeah, it's more over exaggerated. But
yeah,
Helena kind of walks the same way, like in a way, like when she was on a severed floor. I don't know if she's trying to mimic Helly, but Helly, her walk is distinct. You can just tell just the way the over
like
exaggeration is.
it's Helly.
You
She's
know
on
it's Helly.
BS right now. Yeah, like it
Yes,
always looks like she's about to, pop
that's
it
a good
off.
point.
She's about to start something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can. It's really like really pronounced. Is what I'm trying to get at. It really is
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. All right. So Mark, Mark meets up with Miss Cobell, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, he's still skeptical because you got to think we got beef. Like it's static. Like you knew my wife was alive this whole time. You knew what was going on. You ain't say nothing. You lived next door to me, keeping tab. I don't trust you, so it's beef. So I did you understand Mark being standoffish to Miss Cobell, or did you think, hey, there's a greater mission here? Right now, we got to kind of just put that to the side and figure things out. Like, how did you feel when they interacted?
My initial first thoughts, because following the last episode, I thought he'll be fully integrated. So, but as it kind of progressed, it showed it wasn't the case. Which I was like, oh, then I guess they're going to take a different approach. I guess, which they later did, which posed more questions, right? But in that instance, to answer your question, it doesn't really make sense because you was gonna go meet her. You had a conversation with her over the phone, you told her everything, and then you meet up with her in person, and now it's like, oh, now then you should never met her. I felt as though they could have probably executed that better in the sense of like have the cutoff right before they meet her. He's kind of really iffy, like, nah, I'm not about to, go out and meet her. She knows this, she knows that, but I'm okay with it because of what Cobell said, essentially, right? Her words, essentially, like, if you finish Cold Harbor, she's practically dead. And
Mhm.
at that point, he got upset, right? But
Yeah,
the standoffish behavior was kind of unnecessary. It kind of was like, bro,
yeah,
didn't you have a conversation with her over the phone? Like,
yeah,
that doesn't make sense. But that was just a minute It wasn't like nothing like, oh my God, I hate this part because of this. It was just
Yeah.
one of those situations. So
So she says if you finish this, she's dead. Do you think she means like actually dead, or do you think she means just a Gemma that you know is gone forever?
I think it's more of the latter where
Okay.
the Gemma
Okay.
is gone, especially with how the Severance chip works. I'm probably leaning more towards that.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe all 6 personalities are kind of formed together, or maybe it's just a clean slate. I
Hmm.
don't know. Because if they wanted her dead, right, they would have disposed of her in another way. Cold
Hmm.
Harbor seems to have some meaning between Mark and Gemma, right? And Mark has to be the one to complete it. Now,
Yeah.
maybe as a consequence of undergoing some sort of different reintegration, Gemma dies as a result. Maybe that's it, right? Or maybe it's just okay, she's our test subject, and it's gonna the Gemma is gonna be completely gone.
Yeah.
So that's probably what they mean by death or something worse than death, right? And it can't be taken back. So
Right. 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 So uh, to go back to the Mark and Miss Cobell thing, I'm kind of on the opposite side of you. I'm kind of with Mark here, right? Because I get that they spoke, but have you ever been in a situation before, like where there's an issue, the issue is supposed to be de-escalated, and you're trying to comply, but something in you is just like, nah, f this, I'm back on BS right now, and I feel like that was marked, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like, listen, I'm trying to be with this. I want to comply, but like when I see you, it just like brought everything back out of me. You get what I'm
mhm,
saying? So I kind of empathize with Mark's frustration,
mhm,
but nevertheless, this is the part I really want to talk about, right? A couple things I really want to talk about. I know there's some theories out there, and I want to give you a chance to kind of bring some of those theories up. But they go to like that birthing cabin, and I forgot the name of it, but it's in season 1 where Devin, Mark's sister, meets the lady who
that gave
is like,
birth.
yeah, and then like she's severed, so like her innie or whatever you want to call it goes to the childbirth instead of her, right? And
Mhm.
them getting in is pretty weird, right? But I'm kind of shocked because I would think that word was given to them that Miss Cobell is no longer a part of this. And I think if someone saw Miss Cobell, they would have been able to immediately identify her. So that was a bit
Yeah,
shocking to me,
that
right?
was that was definitely a minor plot hole there for sure. Because it's like, do y'all not communicate? Like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Or maybe you're trying to keep the doors open for Miss Cobell to come back. But the fact that you knew and you were keeping tabs on her is kind of like, I don't know
yeah,
about that. Especially to
yeah,
get to that location. Come on.
yeah. So then we get into the name of the episode, right? The after hours, right? She starts talking about the whole like they're talking in code, the gold thimble. She's like, oh, this is one of James. And then Devin pretends to be pregnant.
Pregnant.
So that raises a lot of questions. What is James doing to these women? Is he
Yeah.
impregnating a bunch of women and starting an Egan army? Is he like what is he doing?
Yeah. I mean, it's implied he's definitely the people when they say it's James, it's women that are being impregnated by him. I'm just not sure exactly, what
Yeah,
they're trying to do with the children. Maybe it's just one of those situations where, like in Game of Thrones, you have the Targaryens just producing bastard children as a result of just them trying to cleanse, or I don't know. But
yeah.
I
But
have no idea. Your guess is as good as mine at this point in terms of what he's
before I
trying to
bef- before I let you get into your theory, right, about maybe Mark's mom or whatever, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like
It's not. I had
okay, the one that
well,
was shared
I,
with you, but
yeah,
let,
yeah, yeah,
all
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So we're gonna get into that next, but you know me, I Google the name of all the episodes, right? So
Mhm.
the After Hours is a reference and callback to a Twilight Zone episode, right?
Okay.
So it's a Twilight Zone episode from like the 60s or whatever.
Hmm.
Ben Stiller also said he's a big fan of the Twilight Zone, but
Okay.
there's a woman. Somebody comes to like buy something from her, and she's like a salesperson. But it come to find out, and I haven't seen the episode. I'm just like, this is what I quickly read after I googled the After Hours. Right,
Okay.
comes to find out the woman who works at the store as like the sales rep or whatever, she's not a real person. She's a mannequin that comes to life, right? And then a bunch
Mm.
of these mannequins are taking turns coming to life, and they kind of like it seems like they don't remember what they were doing before, but so they're taking turns coming to life, right? And what does
Mm.
that bring attention back to? All those Egan, former CEO mannequin thing,
Mannequins.
right? So is there a connection there? Is it deeper, right? And then like in that episode as well, the Twilight Zone episode, they make the reference, I believe, to the gold thimble. So
Hmm.
any which way, so then I'm like, all right, what other Twilight Zone episodes could be relevant here? Have I missed any? Are they, you know what I'm saying? So I'm going through the name, and after the After Hours episode,
Yeah.
the sequentially next episode, bro, is called The Mighty Casey. So in
Mm.
episode 10, are we gonna see like some kind of Miss Casey craziness go down?
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I did not know these were tied to the Twilight Zone for sure. That kind of is interesting, especially the mannequin one. I mean, before, like, I think I brought this up. The first and second episode, no, maybe a third, where we did a review on, where I initially thought, the board were former Egan members, right? Or
Mhm.
like they're finding ways, if they're going to bring anyone back, it's probably them. They have these chips that has their information, and they're just trying to find a way to like revert them into some sort of body to bring back their memories. But then I was like, I don't know. But now you bringing back, talking about that episode tied to the mannequins, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. It's tough. But then now my attention now is drawn back to, I know you mentioned, you felt as though Miss Casey was robotic in that sense, right? And how she acted, and she didn't really act human like. And now it kind of, I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe
And
there
then
is something there.
I'm gonna let you go with your theories, and then I'm gonna ask you something afterwards. Going back to Miss Casey being robotic.
Okay, so that's really it. I really, at this point, I just don't know, right? One thing I definitely want to go back to before we kind of really dive deep into these theories is regarding Bert and Irvin. When he lets Irving go, do you think he's letting Irving go and Irving is gonna find a new establishment, new town? Do you think Lumen's reach is far out of care? Like, what do you think about that whole situation, right? Especially how he had a talk with them, letting him know, the reason as to why he wanted to go to Lumen in the first place is because of things he did as a driver was wrong. He let people go, drive them to a certain location and driving them to their deaths, essentially, right? Where
Mhm.
essentially it's implied that his severed form or another severed version of himself kills them as the hitman, right? So, do you think their reach is outside of the care province? What do you think about that?
Yes, I think their reach is outside because I think Salt's Neck is outside of Kier's province, right?
I
Per se, per
I
se.
believe so.
But
Yeah.
here's the thing. I think, right, because Lumen has like a bunch of offices, but I don't think this is happening at every office. But I do think
Okay.
some fishy stuff is going on at select offices. Do you see what
Okay.
I'm saying? So I
Okay.
do think they probably have some ties and some grounds elsewhere, but not everywhere. I don't think they control everywhere. I think this is probably the headquarters of like weirdness, right? But I do think they have like maybe a few small operations going on at select few offices, not all of them, right?
Got
Um,
it.
so,
Okay.
so I do think depending on where Irv goes, he can be out of their reach. But I think he's going to be in their reach because I think Irv is going to come back.
Yeah,
Like
he's gonna
the
come back.
look between him and his dog kind of was like this unfinished business.
Yeah, they're definitely gonna bring him back.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What's up with Radar though? Like, what kind of guard dog are you that you keep letting people in his house and like you're never like riled up, like you're never barking.
Yeah, I
You're
think he's
always
just too old at this point. I think he's just
okay.
keeping him around because he's just, you can look at the dog eyes like, I'm tired of this.
Yeah, like bro, you gotta go
I'm
get
like,
you like a Rottweiler or something, man.
right, something, people keep breaking into your crib. Like, this is insanity, But
Yeah.
but I guess going back, I guess, to the theories, I guess I'll start with a
Mhm.
theory that was actually brought to my attention regarding Cobal. Right. So I have a friend, shout you out, Christian. You told me that Miss Cobell is Mark's mother, and that when she was younger and she went through the fellowship, right? Because we see the pictures between her and James Egan, and the fact that she's made strides in creating Severance, right? The Severance chip, etc., etc. You know, James took a liking to her, right? And he mentioned to me that Miss Cobell had already been severed before,
Mhm.
and as a result, of course, maybe that time that she was severed is because she was pregnant. And James got her pregnant and she gave birth, and that's the reason really why she's always keeping tabs on Mark. And he mentioned, you know, that's the reason why. He actually reminded me that that's the reason why she went and brought him cookies and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, it kind of
Mhm.
sounds plausible. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
It does sound plausible. And that's why she always gives Mark that look, right? So that would be crazy, right? If the but it's not out of this world at this point, you
yeah.
know, because I think the way the show is written is so many different possibilities. It could be true, you know.
Yeah, I like it. I probably disagree with it, but I like it because, I mean, I don't know how weird Severance is planning to get, but then that kind of puts us in like a Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia kind of situation with Mark and
Or
Helena, right?
yeah, 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 like
So
basically related, but we've seen it happen, right? We've seen, you know, Jon Snow
yeah,
and
that's what I'm saying. I don't know how
Daenerys
weird. I don't know
and
how weird Severance is weird, but I don't know if they're gonna be that weird. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't tell. I can't tell. So I like the theory, but I'm gonna go on the record and say no, she's not. I just think she's been hip to all this the whole time, and her plan's always been to keep him happy. Right? She knows he's depressed on the outside. Keep him happy. Keep him coming back to work, motivated to come to work because he's always been the key, right, to completing this Cold Harbor. So I think that's more so her interest in him and her being super nice to him more than her being his mom. That's
yeah.
just my opinion. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's like I said, it's plausible. I think it's unlikely to be
Mm-hmm.
kind of honest. I do think it's kind of a stretch.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think things that are more likely to happen have kind of been in our faces, like for instance, like Helena being pregnant by Mark's child, right? Because of the
Yeah. Yeah.
sex
I
scenes,
think we all
like
agree that
things
that's the
I
case.
think we all like it's blatant things that's coming that's kind of I feel like the scene what he's the theory that you know we're talking about Miss Cobell being his mom is probably just as likely as happening compared to them. It might be less likely than even Care being brought back to life, to be quite honest, because Care is
Mhm.
something that is a figure that's been constantly touted. So good theory. I would say I would rank it what like I'll rank it like maybe a 7.5 out of 10. I'm not gonna lie.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I think it's unlikely. I think it's
I
unlikely.
mean, many episodes ago, I kind of like said I thought Miss Cobell could be like a Jon Snow kind of situation, like she's in the family, and I thought maybe I remember I thought that's what she had over them. I thought she was like the
Yes.
Jon Snow of the family, but it seems like what she had over them was like that she created Severance, and maybe that she could replicate it or bring it down or whatever. But who
Yep.
knows? I'm still holding out that she may be for some way like a distant, the child of like a mistress or something. I'm still holding out. For me personally, I rank that theory higher than her being Mark's mom theory.
I mean, yeah, imagine her mom actually being Kier's wife, right? Who knows? It could be a bunch of things, right? At this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So yeah, and then I believe there you had one more, right? There was another one,
Oh,
another.
there's another one he brought to my attention, but it kind of aligned with what you had. But I want you to, I guess you can just kick it off, right?
Is this one in reference to the Cole Harbor file number being
Yes.
identical now to Helly's severance chip
And
number?
what Helly is attempting to do, essentially. I'm
Right.
not sure
So
how
so so
I don't know.
here's the thing about that. Like that coincidence is crazy. It's not a coincidence. It means something.
Right.
But I don't think, and I think this is the consensus. I don't think Heli is trying to take Gemma's body unless Helena is sick and we don't know it. Because I
Mhm.
think Helena and Gemma are comparable ages, maybe even younger. So it's not like James or somebody old, like older, trying to get into it. Like it's not like Get Out, right? Where you need the body. Like why would she need Gemma's body? And I'm also gonna give Severance credit just because I love the show. I don't think they're necessarily gonna do that because Get Out has done it, and I feel like whatever Severance is gonna give us, I just feel like it's gonna be original. You know what I mean? But I can't see why Helena would need Gemma's body unless Helena is sick. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Unless she's just behind some. What's that Netflix show I told you to watch? It's like 6 episodes behind her eyes.
Yes.
Unless she's just on some behind her eyes kind of stuff,
Type of
right?
situation. Yeah.
But what the question I was gonna ask you about Gemma, bro? Like, what if Gemma's like some ex machina stuff, bro? Like going back to the robotic thing. What if she's
Mhm.
like an ex machina kind of situation, right? Have you seen Ex Machina?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay.
Like basically what you're saying is like Gemma was actually a product of of Lumen to begin with,
Yeah,
and
well,
they're trying
what if
to,
she's not from the outside? What if she's from
yeah,
the inside,
yeah,
and
she's
then
been
they
built
let
from the
they
ground
let
up.
her out, like let her out to see if whatever they've done, like you know what I'm saying, if we could make this person human like and this, that, and the third, and then like so what if you know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I don't see the body switching, but I'm just like, what if Gemma actually is from the inside and not the outside? Like, what
See,
if Gemma is just a severed personality? You see what I'm saying?
probably. I mean, Gemma. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's unlikely that she was a robot to begin with,
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
was produced and then kind of pushed out into the world, and then they want to retrieve her. I think her Gemma being a severed personality to begin with is interesting, right?
Mhm.
That was she wasn't the true
Yeah,
one
yeah.
personality to begin with, but then it begs the question: when was she severed, right,
Hmm.
and sent out to the world to begin with? And did Gemma not recall this? Right? Did she
Right,
not
right,
remember
right.
this? Like, has she ever brought this up? It would bring a lot more questions in
Yeah.
terms of timeline. But going back to I guess the theory that my friend had, where he believes Helena is going to take over Gemma's body because Helly was working on the Cold Harbor file, or her name was on it, and you can kind of go back and refer to that specifically. I'm with you in terms of like it being another unlikely theory. I think it's a decent theory, but I like the point that you made about it being done before, and I truly believe that the Severance writers will want to do something original. I do love that point because I feel like it is somewhat original, and also I feel like, I don't know, Severance, like Lumen, I feel like they haven't gotten it. I think their tech is up and out there, but the fact that Cobell's behind all this, and she's the
Hmm.
one that created all this, I don't think they're there yet where they can, one, revive the dead as of yet, from what we see. And then on top of that, I don't even know if they even have the capability of even, swapping bodies, right? What's that show that we used to watch, where it's the futuristic, where they had discs in the back, and if you blow the discs out, they die, and then they could swap bodies, or sleeves. They call the body sleeves. I forget the name of the show. It was a futuristic show. But nevertheless, I don't think they have the capability to do these type of things as of yet. So I think it's our expectations is probably, at least mine. I don't want to really have this drawn out expectation of what Cold Harbor is, and
Yeah.
I kind of feel disappointed.
Yeah, and then I'll say that because they said it's going to be like crazy, like the biggest discovery or like the biggest thing, whatever. Like keep in mind, it seems like I like your point of the technology is not that advanced because I do think the show is a bit older. They're not really telling us the time frame, but if you just look at the places, it just seems like it's taking place in like a older time. You know what I'm saying? So like for example, even this tech, like let's say if it's the 70s, like this tech in the 70s is unheard of. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. So I'm not on really. I don't think any of those theories. I don't think Miss Cobell's Mark's mom. I don't think that Helena is trying to take Gemma's body. I don't even think Gemma is like from the inside. I was just throwing it out there. Like, what if it's like some ex machina stuff, right? So I don't really subscribe to any of those. But like I said, you got to just keep on your toes with the what ifs here. But
yes. And then one thing I want to add too, right? Because you are right, keep yourself. Because then, like James, he comes up to the seventh floor, right,
mhm,
and he asks Helly, like, "You tricked me," which I think it was intended for Helena as opposed to Helly herself. I think
he referred to
that,
her as El Heli though, and is that his pet name for his daughter, or does he
yes,
know that she's Heli R?
I think his name is pet daughter. I genuinely believe when he says that, I think he's referring to Helena, some shape or form,
But
right?
what do you think she tricked him with?
That's the point. I don't know. Maybe and it's related to probably the file, right? Maybe
That
it's,
it wasn't completed today.
who knows? Maybe it wasn't completed. Maybe she had access to the file that she probably shouldn't have access to, or she did something below the seven floors that she shouldn't have done. I don't know at this point. Your guess is good as mine, but I wonder why. What did he mean by that? Is really what I kind of want
Yeah.
to get into.
So
But
couple things, right? It could be like you tricked me, like you told me like Cole Harbor was going to be done today. Like you told me these things were, but you didn't really tell me that you guys were having problems, right? And so it
mhm,
could be that. It could be like the whole Glasgow block situation because remember she wanted to speak to her dad and they didn't let her. So maybe he doesn't. Maybe he never knew that her severed self was going back down. Maybe this whole time he still just thought Helena was going down there as a double agent. Because remember, she didn't really want to go down. She wanted to talk to him, and Drummond was basically like, nah, like we'll talk to him. You don't need to speak to him about this. So I wonder when he came down if he instantly knew it wasn't his daughter. He's like, Helly, you tricked me. Like I didn't think you were coming back. I thought it was all Helena. You know what I'm saying? So I think that maybe could be a second angle. Um, can I think of any other angles of how she may have tricked him? Or
Yeah, because
maybe
Helly looked at him like,
one more. Here's the third way she could have potentially tricked him. Maybe this is the first time he's coming face to face with Helly R since the events of season 1, episode 9, where she was outside actually wilding. So maybe he's like, Helly, you tricked me. As in the last time
it
we
might
came
be
face
that.
to face, I thought you were my real daughter, but you were just, So those,
Yeah,
maybe.
I think it's that one. I don't think so. I don't think the show would go that extra mile to maybe they might surprise me, but I absolutely think it's that. I completely forgot that happened in
Yeah.
a season 1, but yeah, I think it's actually that.
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
actually that. Yeah.
Because
Okay.
I was actually rewatching season 1 last night, and I remember just that scene any which way. But maybe I really want to know what he means. You know what I'm saying? Because like, what's brought him there? That means he's upset now if he has to come and
Yeah,
really.
because that's another thing too, right? What will make you go to the 7th floor? Just say, "Oh, you tricked me." Maybe he just wants to get it off his chest. Probably, I don't know. Or that might just be a dialogue to open up the conversation between him and Helly, and then get what he wants. Right? It might be something else. So, or he might have something nefarious in mind. I don't know though,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But all I do know is season 2, episode 10, the finale is coming up, 76 minutes. I can't wait to see it. This video went way longer than I thought it was gonna go. We're at 42 minutes, so we're gonna wrap it up. But jump in the comments, tell us what theories you have. What do you think about some of the theories that were presented here? Do you think we're onto something? Do you think we're crazy? What is Cole Harbor? I think we're going to find out next episode, as the finale is titled Cole Harbor. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. 2 cents short of $1.